My chair right? Alright, good. Hello, my fellow readers. Today, Dark Symphony, some fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications. Leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story and any future fan fictions you want me to review. And as always, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So we're going back to the one and only Big O. Yeah. It's been a while since I did a Big O story, mainly because there's not really a lot of Big O fan fictions out there. I mean, Galaxy 1001 D is probably the only one who actually did consecutive Big O stories. But now there's a new guy in town. His name is Untitled Chapter. And he actually wrote the original Big O Season 3 all the way back in 2003. He actually deleted it on FanFiction, but then brought it back recently. So I'm going to be reviewing that, but I'm not going to be reviewing that yet. I actually have a fanfiction I actually wanted to review for a while now. That's just finished, and I'm going to be reading that before I get to Season 3. But we're going to be reading the side story of Season 3 called Crime Pays, a Big O love story written by ACT Paradigm, or ACT if you want to call them that. And it is admittedly a quirky story. I don't hate it. I just, that's the only way I can properly, sum up the story in one word, it'd be quirky. So let's get started with the story. So the story takes place during the events of Act Season 3, so to speak, but it tells it from Jason Beck's point of view. Jason Beck was a sort of minor character in the Big O show. He basically was a criminal who basically tried way too hard to be a criminal. He's kind of one character that's kind of really hard to nail down. Mainly because, well, a lot of characters in Big O anime and manga are actually hard to describe because of how the show, how it worked. He's basically this petty crime guy obsessed with vanity and wanted to prove he's better than everyone. So he's always dressed in these garish colors. His criminal name is Beck Gold, for Pete's sake. And he basically just didn't like Roger. Again, it's not even a fault on the author, and it's not a fault on me. It's just more of how the show worked. It's like we didn't really know really anything about any character. Really, it was really hard to nail down how to properly describe Roger Smith, Dorothy Wainwright, Dan Datson, Norman. It's really hard to nail those characters down because of how the show worked. So let's get started with the plot. So to properly describe the plot, I have to describe what's actually in the synopsis, or particularly just the first sentence. Crime Pays, a Big O love story, or how Beck stole and our Dorothy Wainwright's heart and the rest of her too. I actually reread that wrong the first time I saw the story, and I thought it said how Beck stole our Dorothy Wainwright's heart and the rest of her too. And I thought, okay, are we getting like a kidnapping situation where he stole Dorothy again and Dorothy falls in love with him? I don't know. And it took me like reading it again to say, and our Dorothy Wainwright. And that actually got me interested in continuing the story. So the story has Beck create his own version of our Dorothy Wainwright. And our Dorothy Wainwright is kind of like the reason why I like Big O, because she was my first waifu. She had a very unique design of being like this robotic goth girl who was super serious all the time and just inadvertently created a lot of hilarious situations. Beck Gold did too. And so I really liked her character. But Dorothy doesn't really show up a lot in the story, so I'm not going to be able to talk about her. So Dorothy, I'm going to leave it in quotation marks right now, wakes up and then she finds Jason Beck saying, "Hey, I built you. Basically, 40 years ago, everyone's memories got wiped. I have like all this fancy skill of robotics and electronics, and I don't know where it came from. So I use like all these. So Beck used all these old pictures and videos and audio stuff, whatever was left, to create his own version of Dorothy Wainwright. And made her kind of love him unconditionally, and, you know, kind of have to bond to him because of how Mega Deuces work. Again, Big O's weird. Just saying that. And so the story kind of follows Jason Beck wanting to go clean, but he has a few more jobs and loose ends to clear up first, mostly revolving around the Union, where Angel Rosewater works for, and trying to build himself up so that way he can take them all down and get a part in and deal with Roger Smith whenever the time comes. He's like, hey, come at me. And so he thinks Dorothy is going to help him with that. Dorothy's like, okay, fine, I'll help you. Yeah. And then, you know, Dorothy starts to warm up to Jason over the course of the story. She realizes that she's technically just a clone of the Roger Smith's Dorothy Wainwright, so she quickly changes her identity to Dory Wainwright, not Dorothy. So so I'm going to be calling her Dory for the rest of the video. And, you know, they get into a lot of shenanigans. There's actually a scene in, I believe, the 3rd chapter, where I think either the 2nd chapter or the 3rd chapter, where Beck robs a bank. And he has, like, all this money in this car. And then he drives up to Dory, said, hey, and she's like, where'd you get all the money? And said, I managed to get it all. And it's like, take that, Roger. And then I believe, let me see if I can find let me see if I can, let me see if I can find it. No, I can't remember. Let me see. No. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if I can find it. So I think I'm on the right chapter. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, here it is. Okay, so the scene where she has all the money and she goes, and he's talking about how one of the tellers was kind of wanting to be a groupie, and he's like, I'm going straight, and it's like, here's 10 grand, get out. You know, it's like, I don't want you to be involved in this anymore, so it's like, just deal with it. And so he gets home with all this with like a lot of money. And she's like, and he goes like, what should I have done? Next time gave the lady a kiss or red rose or something. Cash is vulgar. And then Beck laughs. She was awfully excited by it. What do you mean next time? She was? And then Beck says, yeah, would it be vulgar if we piled $1 million into a heap and made love on top of it? And she goes, and then Dory goes, carrot be vulgar. And then she opens the door. I'm not joking, this actually happens in chapter 3. Takes out the metal box from the last steal, rips it open, and starts piling money onto the ground. And then she goes, help me with these bags. This may be our only chance. I'm like, it took me a second to actually come to terms with the fact that she's actually wanting to have sex with him on money. I'm like, yeah, that got me. 2 thumbs up. And but overall, the plot is basically Beck wanting to come clean. Having built his own robot to help him with that, and they fall in love. And then Roger Smith kind of gets involved in the last chapter, where they have to try and get rid of the Union and get rid of all the robots. And then we get to a part at the end where I'm not really a big fan of, because I don't know how to examine this story. I don't know whether or not to take it very seriously or take it quirky, because this is a very quirky story, because Roger Smith, he's like the uber, he has fans calling him anime Batman. You see in the show, you kind of get the feeling there is a lot of Batman tone to the story. But Beck is kind of the opposite, where he's like a very over the top, vain guy who likes showboating and rubbing in it. So it's like So it's like very. So this story is very over the top. It's not supposed to take itself seriously, but it knows when to take itself seriously, which I like. So the scene in question is actually in the last chapter, and it's after they take down the gigantic built robots, and then Roger finds out that Beck actually driving the other Megaduce. And it's like, all right, you want to go? Yeah, we're gonna go. And they try and pilot the Megaduces, and like both of them are just standing there. It's like, nope, no, and they're like, it's like, dang it, we can't move them. And so, Dorothy and Dory actually like tell us that, they're basically telling you just go beat the crap out of each other. And they're like, and keep in mind they're in the middle of a desert, and so they're like, fine. And so they actually exited the Megaduce from their feet. They walk up to each other, they take off their shirts, and they just start beating the crap out of each other. Like, I don't know whether or not to take it seriously, because it's actually treated as an actual serious moment, but then it quickly develops into a farce with like Angel like pointing up a gun, and it's like, all right, go to your corners. And then she convinces both of them to like agree on a truce. So it's like, and very over the top. I'm kind of split on this part, mainly because on one hand it made a lot of sense to completely treat this as serious, so like just beat the crap out of each other just to get it out of their systems. But on the other hand, it fits what it feels like. So written. It fits along with the rest of the story. It's not taking itself too seriously, which fits into Jason Beck's character. And so, it's really just this one scene. The rest of the story, in terms of plot, it's very good. I think it fits Beck's character. Granted, I would suggest reading Season 3 before reading this, because a lot of the stuff that happens in this story probably would make more sense make sense out of context unless you read the other story. That's just me. That's what I think you should do. I'm not gonna force you anything. That's just, I think, what should happen. Just read the other story, so that way you have more context of what certain parts happen in here. But that's about it. Characters. We only really have 2 characters. Well, 3 if you count Angel. We have Beck, Dory, and I guess Angel. Angel kind of shows up every so once often. She's the Enigma, I guess sort of Selena Kyle figure. She makes sense, and I like what the author did with her, giving her a conscience, because there's not, again, out of all the characters in the actual show, Angel was the biggest enigma, because we didn't know what side she landed on, we didn't know her motivations, we didn't know anything about her, and I guess that what kind of made her appeal so good, because she was so mysterious, and so we didn't really know anything about her. And I guess to a certain extent we don't really know anything about any character in the anime. So the fact that we have Beck coming clean is like, Angel's like, okay, I knew you for long. There's actually a scene in like the last chapter where Beck and Angel are yelling at each other, and Dory's going through this thought process, and Angel's like accurately guessing everything that Beck's planning on doing. You're gonna go straight, are you? And he's like, oh, you are, aren't you? And then Beck's like, all right, what number am I thinking of? And then the word actually goes to Dory, thinking he's like, he's not straightforward. It's probably gonna be like yellow or something. And then Angel goes, it's yellow. Don't trick me. I'm like, dang. And Angel's done really well. Beck is Beck. I mean, it's really hard to get a. Again, I'm really kind of tired of mentioning this. It's just hard to get a read on these characters. Beck is this chauvinistic, over-the-top, bombastic guy who likes being overly vain. He's trying to come clean, and he's using Dory to help him. And he's like, hey, I like this. And he's trying to control himself more and more. And as the story goes along, he slowly kind of learns to get rid of like the evilness, I guess, evil qualities in him. Aside from his laugh, he's like, ah ha ha! And he's like, he even designed his Megaduce around him, Big B, by giving him like tow charges, like that, like mines. and like a knee charge, an actual spike that's like a big bomb, and so he like grabs the tries to grab the robot and then just knee him right in the chest, or the groin is like BAM! And I thought that's actually pretty funny because I've never seen that happen in a mech anime ever. And it's like, I got you. Why are you holding me this? Did you just knee my robot in the groin? Wait for it. Boom! And it's like, ah! My robot groin! I'm falling! Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm not really hurt. And then gigantic laser. I'm sorry for being quirky. This is kind of making up for my last video. So there's this story. And you know, Beck is a unique character. I think the author actually handled Beck really well. I don't really hate Beck. I'm not a big fan of Beck in the anime. I'm more of a fan of Schwarzwald. I would actually really like to see a fan fiction about Schwarzwald somewhere. I don't know. He probably appears in season 3. I haven't really read that story yet. But I don't know. I would be surprised if Schwarzwald appeared in there. He appeared in Galaxy 1001D's fan fiction. He was actually handled really well in those stories. But that's beside the point. Finally, we have Dory. Dory is the only original character, so we have a basis of what the author does to her. So we have the base character of Dorothy Wainwright, but with some fundamental changes to her. Dorothy, if you ever watch the show, is actually a very stoic character. She's very muted. She's overly serious, and she's basically a foil to Roger. And so when I thought of this version of Dorothy, it's like in order to have this character work best, she has to be a foil to Beck, and so that actually works to a point. I do like Dory's character. I just think she's a little too much like Beck. I get in the context of the story, Beck kind of designed her that way, but the fact that she acts at points a little too much like Beck. I mean, unlike Dory, Dorothy, who's like very, very mute and very, very robotic in the way she speaks, Dory actually has a full range of emotions, and so she's more emotive than Dorothy, which is a good compare-contrast. She's able to be more helpful, and like Dorothy being like dick, but also helping him, so to speak. Their romance is more artificial than Roger and Dorothy's, who kind of completely fell in love with each other. Dorothy has some very comedic moments too, the money thing, chief among them. And she plays off Beck really well. I just think she acted a little too much like Beck in certain parts. That's just my interpretation. Stories is all about interpretation. And I'm not saying, and she doesn't act like him throughout the entire story. It's just there's certain parts where she acts a little too much like him. Nothing bad. It's more an observation. Grammar, I see no grammar errors. Nothing. If I remember, there might be one, like a single grammar error somewhere. I can't remember where, but I think it was just a single grammar error, I think, in the first chapter. I think that was it. But that's pretty much it. It might have been cleaned up. I don't know. Pacing, I think this was paced relatively nice. It's supposed to be a short time frame, like a month or two. But it's done well enough that it's mostly from Dory's point of view. When Dory wakes up, Beck's already committed to going clean. Dory's just there he built Dory just to keep him from possibly going evil again. Nothing too bad. And so a lot of the parts is from Dory's point of view. I do think it kind of becomes a little wacky towards the end because it's introducing all these points of views from Beck, Dory, Angel, Roger, and Dorothy. I just think it was kind of getting weird, really, really erratic at the end. Just literally near the end, like the last chapter. But that was the last chapter, so it's not like it carried on too much once, and everything was wrapped up in a nice bow. There are no plot points. All the plot points are supposed to tie into season 3, Act's other story. So it's not like I'm going to complain about the plot holes, because they'll probably be filled in the other story. Pacing, I overall like the pacing. I think it was done really well. Nothing too extravagant. No, it carried on at a very good pace. It didn't drag on. I still wish maybe the fight could have been handled differently. But that's just about it. Just that one moment, and even then, it still kind of fits if you think about it. But overall, I like it. Would I recommend it? This is more of a companion piece to season 3, so I probably wouldn't. So my thought on this story particular: don't read it until you have at least until you read part of season 3. This story is not a standalone story. You have to read. It's accompanied by Act's other story, so you got to read that one first before reading this. But I would recommend it. It's a nice story. It just you got to read the other story first. Favorite part? I guess it would have to be the idea of just the fight. It's the fight that kind of sticks around me because of how undecisive I am about it. Because again, it works, but at the same time, it doesn't. It's really, really weird that I like a scene, but at the same time, I don't like it. That's just my thoughts on it. Would I have to change anything? No, not really. I mean, maybe the fight scene just make it kind of serious. I don't know. Maybe have like another chapter, just a short random chapter of just Beck and Roger maybe like settling. Okay, that fight in the desert didn't count. All right, so we're gonna fight each other again. Yeah, and then just start going at it again. I don't know. That's not even fixing anything. That's just more wishful thinking than anything else. But final thoughts. I really like this story. I think it fits with the character of Jason Beck Gold. I think Dory. I almost said Dorothy for a second. Dory is a good character. Maybe we might get more of her in season 3, depending on what happened, because I still gotta read that. And overall, I like the story. It's inoffensive. It just ties into the story. That's the only thing I would have against it. But even then, that's just easily fixed by just reading season 3. That's just it. That's all you have to do. Read season 3, then read this, or at least probably get to a point where probably in season 3 the author says, there's a story that kind of accompanies certain parts. This is where they kind of catches up with. Go read Crime Pays, maybe. I don't know. That depends on what happens when I read through season 3. So that's my review on Crime Pays. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and